6 accidents all within the first 2 months of owning it. That's when I was 16. And, well, 2 of them was I slipped off in the rain. Once I came off around a corner, wet as well. The other types of accidents I had mainly, I just wasn't watching where I was going, taking corners too sharply. It's just generally, I think, inexperience, because, I mean, I hadn't ridden even a bicycle before I got a motorcycle, and, well, it was just one simple theoretical test when I was on, and I didn't really know what was going on, and I think I learned the hard way.
What is defensive riding? It probably boils down to one basic factor, and that is the avoiding of accidents by predicting potential hazards well ahead of time and making effective decisions to cope with them. Motorcycles are smaller than cars and are therefore more difficult to see, so one of the most important things you can do is to make sure that other motorists see you. Wear bright-coloured protective clothing and use your headlight, even during the day. A motorcyclist must also constantly scan the road ahead and be specially alert for uneven, wet or slippery surfaces.
And when you're on a bike, you've just got to watch that surface in front of you all the time. Water on the road, gravel on the road, sand on the road. A truck has dropped a bit of oil. Just disastrous for the bike rider, unless he's watching the whole time. So you've really got to concentrate. Things that I'd never dreamt of, that one does experience as one rides a bike. Things like sudden gusts of wind, cracks in the road, potholes, ruts, things that you just drive over in a car, and you can even be looking at the scenery.
Each year, many motorcyclists are involved in traffic accidents. Most collisions could be avoided by appropriate defensive action. Let's look at some possible collision situations. Firstly, the vehicle ahead.
I was coming down Franklin Street a few weeks ago now, and a taxi pulled out from the curb in front of me. And I sort of jumped on the anchors and, said a few words under my breath, and when I pulled out to go past him, we were the same, he pulled out to do a right-hand turn in front of me. Sort of going down the road sideways,
The most effective method of avoiding a collision with a vehicle ahead is by maintaining a safe following distance. This helps a rider to see any hazardous road conditions ahead. Allow at least 1 car's length for every 15 kilometers an hour. 30 kilometers an hour means 2 car lengths. A simple method for checking your correct following distance at all speeds is called the time-lapse formula. We watch the vehicle ahead past some definite point on the road, like this parked car. We count 1001, 1002, that's 2 seconds, until the front wheel of the motorcycle passes the same object. If you pass within the 2 seconds, you're following too closely. This rule applies at all speeds, but in wet or slippery conditions, you should double this distance.
And another point that I've made all my life really is to just refrain from following too close to the fellow in front. You're not aware of how good or how bad his brakes may be. Not only that, but your brakes may not be as good as you think they are sometimes, especially in the rain. I think it goes without saying that a motorcycle loses, any vehicle loses its braking efficiency when the road is wet.
When you are a defensive rider, you will know and use a number of basic principles, not only to do with your own machine, but also to do with other vehicles using the road. You'll learn to keep a safe following distance from the vehicle ahead. You will understand that your vehicle will not stop the second the brakes are applied, but will pull up in a distance dependent on a number of factors. 1. The speed you're traveling. 2. The mechanical efficiency of your brakes. 3. The speed of your reflexes from the time you are aware of the need to brake to the actual application of the brakes. 4. Road conditions. 5. The condition of your tires. Many riders have never slammed on their brakes in an emergency and are consequently quite unaware of what their machines will do under this type of stress. As far as other vehicles are concerned, it's important for motorcyclists to know areas where they are not visible to the drivers of cars and trucks. And if they're in any doubt, they should make sure that these drivers know they are following or about to overtake, either by flashing their lights or a slight blast on their horns. In areas of dense traffic, behind laden vehicles with restricted rear vision, it is recommended that the motorcyclist ride in the driving side wheel track of the vehicle ahead. This is called defensive positioning and keeps the cyclist away from opening car doors, ensures that he is seen by vehicles ahead, encourages drivers to pass him correctly, and allows for greater vision and maneuverability. Another particularly frightening hazard to a motorcyclist is the car that follows too closely behind. This is always a problem, but you can help avoid a collision situation by encouraging him to pass. Slow down gradually, which increases your following distance, and so gives you added time to act to an emergency ahead and move to the left. If you're not riding defensively, you could drift over into the oncoming traffic lane. Or you could start to turn right in front of approaching traffic. Perhaps a car coming towards you crosses the center line. These situations could mean a head-on collision, the deadliest crash of all. The best defense against these situations is to see and be seen. If you think another driver can't see you, warn him with your horn or light. Keep well to the left. Be prepared for any eventuality, even if it means leaving the road completely.
But of course I find myself in situations where I've got to cope with it, and I think the two basic things that must be remembered is to try and avoid lane changing, if even it may mean 5 minutes later getting to your destination. There's always the fast car behind that's coming along out of your vision, and you may not have time to see him coming if you're changing lanes.
Intersections provide perhaps the most important area where defensive riding techniques must be exercised to avoid collision with another vehicle. When approaching any intersection, you should slow down and poise over your brakes in case you have to make a quick stop. Look for crossing traffic, and if you have any doubt whether another motorist will give way to you, always be prepared to yield. Make sure all other vehicles know your intentions at the intersection. And when you're totally aware of and prepared for all other hazards, go through the intersection with safety.
Most accidents occur in collision with another vehicle. So this has always been uppermost in my mind. And when I ride with this thought that if I give way at all intersections, or watch all intersections particularly very carefully, or any place that a vehicle can come out of, then I regard myself as fairly safe. This has been my prime thought all the time I've ridden motorbikes, and I think it's paid off.
Passing and being passed are extremely hazardous maneuvers for a motorcycle. A car driver may cut in sharply in front of you. Or you may decide to change lanes just as another vehicle is trying to pass you on that side. If you're going too slow for the stream of traffic because you're riding a low-powered machine or have weather or mechanical problems, you should always pull off the road and allow the traffic stream to pass. If you insist on your slow, obstructive way, tempers are certain to get frayed.
But I've experienced it a couple of times where car drivers literally attempt to push you off the road. They want to pass you, even though it's going to cause them some dangerous driving to pass you. They're determined to pass this guy on a bike, this bikie. And once they get beside you, they seem equally determined to just cut straight in. And but I've been forced off the road a couple of times by people. I then hit the gravel, the verge on the side of the road, and fall off. I don't think they seem to understand that a bike needs a fairly good surface to remain stable and upright.
Other hazards to keep in mind are crossing railroad crossings, tram lines, or cattle grids in country areas. It's best to approach these hazards as near as possible to a right angle, and always keep your machine and yourself in an upright position as you cross.
Tram tracks can be sort of dangerous in the wet. You never try and brake on a tram track, although you might be braking quite easily on a bitumen road. There has been cases where you can slide out onto your tram track and you'll lose it, no worries. It just locks up and you can go for a real good slide.
If you're going to cross the tram track, you've got to do it quickly and sharply. You just don't go at a very shallow angle towards the tram track. You go right across it and on.
Animals, especially dogs, are always a problem.
there's hazards in the game, and that's the dogs running along. They run out at you, and the dogs seem to hate motorbikes. They come in at you and run alongside and bark, and last 6 months I've had 2 busters. They get tangled up with the front wheel. I've only just had one yesterday. That's really brought me down, you know.
If an animal gets in your way, don't kick out at it. Although this may give you some satisfaction, it also places you in an accident-prone position through instability and inattention to your riding and the road ahead. Rather, change gear down as you approach the animal, and when you reach it, accelerate past. Riding a motorcycle safely calls for constant attention and good coordination every moment.
Well, the main hazards, I think, for motorcycles is sheer inexperience. I've watched traffic patterns for many, many years, and okay, you drive defensively, you got your attention all around you, and mainly you keep out of the way of cars. The idea is to drive where the cars aren't.
When you're out riding, you must be alert at all times. Assess the value of what you see in the road scene and be prepared to take the appropriate action to avoid any adverse conditions you may encounter. To sum up, here are 3 short rules which should help keep you out of trouble. 1. Try to anticipate and therefore avoid the mistakes of other motorists. 2. Ride defensively and heed all traffic rules and signals. 3. Make sure you can see and be seen at all times.